Hi, it's Hans at ahappierman.com. Today's topic is advice for 20-somethings. Well, I'm in my mid-50s, I guess closer to the late 50s than to the early 50s. And I still have very, very fond memories of my 20s. And I've got both kids are in their 20s. And I see that 20-something-year-old time is very, very critical to the rest of your life. You can certainly make some big mistakes in your 20s that will be difficult for you to overcome throughout your life. And on the converse, you can have a lot of fun in your 20s and set yourself up for the rest of your life in a decent manner. I guess I did a little bit of both. So let's just get into a couple of some of the major things I think 20-somethings should be reminded of. I think the first is it is important for you as a 20-something to kind of look good. Men and women, you wouldn't want to spend the bulk of your 20s not maximizing how good you look. Gives you more options. It'll make you feel better. It's easier to have fun if you look good and are more fit. So if you have if your fitness level and what you look like isn't exactly what you want, your 20s would be a good time to focus on that, to put a lot of effort toward making big improvements. Now a lot of you as children and teenagers, your parents probably didn't help you much with this. They probably fed you a lot of junk food. You probably tended toward the junk food yourself, and they may have not given you the right push in the right direction in order to be more fit. Well, in your 20s, you've got to take more responsibility for yourself and kind of put the past behind you a little bit and say, well, I got myself too heavy now, and my parents didn't help, but now it's my responsibility. So I know I got in, when I was a kid, I ate too much junk food. In high school, I was too fat. Toward the end, I did get in halfway decent shape in high school. Felt a little better about myself. Was a little more lean from playing sports and then starting to lift weights. But then in college, did some backsliding, got heavier. And then in my 20s, I did make some efforts to get myself in pretty good shape, kind of the best shape of my life in my 20s. Your hormones are at a point where you probably have the capacity to get yourself in decent shape with effort and discipline, and that's what it's going to take: effort and discipline. You're going to have to eat properly, and you're going to have to work out at a more often and at a more intensity, and make an effort to get in better shape. There's no secret to getting in good shape, especially in your 20s. Everybody knows you just quit eating carbohydrates, you quit eating sugars, you just eat mostly a meat-based diet, and keep your total food intake down. Don't eat so often. Everybody kind of knows this, right? There's no secrets anymore about losing weight. There's no secret to it. It's just the doing of it. The doing of it is the hard part. And there's no secret to making yourself get fit with weight training and various types of cardio, right? Lifting weights multiple times a week, eating mostly a meat-based diet, cardioing, doing enough cardio to keep your heart rate, keep your heart fit. Everybody knows this. There's no excuse. It's just the doing of it. It's just the doing point of it. And let me tell you, as a 50-something-year-old, it's nowhere near as easy doing all that as it was in my 20s. In my 20s, I could do it. In my 50s, it's much, much, much more difficult, and you'll find that as you get older. So in your 20s, that would be the time to attack this getting in good shape idea. Another big thing is taking more and more responsibility for your own life, kind of getting out of that, letting the parents handle things for you. You probably have some bills that your parents still pay, and maybe they're getting on you about getting you off or not. Well, even if they're not telling you to get off some of these bills, it would be better for you and them for you to pay all your own bills. I know it seems like, well, how am I going to get ahead if I got to pay all these darn bills? Mom and dad make a lot of money. Why don't they continue to pay? Well, your parents, they're going to want to retire someday, and the fewer bills they have leading up into their retirement, the easier it will be for them to have a halfway decent retirement. So I would, make a plan to prioritize easing that burden on your parents and getting responsible for yourself. And further, another reason to do this is this keeps you from going overboard on all kinds of little ticky-tack, nicky-nack bills that are irritating to pay. You're going to make an effort to reduce the number of bills you have to pay, right? And the way you make an effort is to be irritated by having to pay so much all the time. So that's kind of second. The third thing is probably you're in your 20s. That's the time you're transitioning away from that excessive schooling, and getting busy working full time. I know in my 20s, when I finally got a full-time job, more in my mid-20s, man, what a relief for the money. Finally making some good money, finally able to pay all my own bills, that my parents didn't have to help me anymore, and I was finally having money to do the stuff that I wanted to do, to spend the money I wanted to spend, and not feel bad because I'm spending too much money having fun. And your parents aren't going to appreciate you having fun on their money, right? You would want to have fun on your money, the money that you earn. So it's critical that you work full time and start making a good income. And since you've been in school, though, working a full-time 40 or more hour a week job is going to be kind of like a slap in the face. It's going to be tedious and boring to be there all day. Yeah, it is. It's very tedious to get there early in the morning and to work all morning and all afternoon, and you're not going to like it. It's not going to be anywhere near as easy as school, where you're coming and going, and the day isn't really that long, and you got a lot of time to loaf and screw around. The work world isn't really built around loafing and screwing around. It's built on work, and that's why it's kind of tough for the 20-somethings, because it's like a big slap in the face. Whereas maybe you dragged in, got to school, mid-morning, have a handful of classes, and then have late afternoons to bum around, do what you want when you're working. That's not really the case. I would say that if you can, once you get working and you've been there a while, you will get used to it. You will get used to it. You will get used to the discipline of working all day, every day, and you will eventually enjoy it. But yes, you probably won't enjoy it that much in your 20s. But it is critical, and the other thing for working, I wouldn't be too concerned in your 20s about getting a job that you're going to have forever, and assuming that what you do in your 20s is going to be what you do forever. That's very unlikely. That's very, very unlikely. I would think of it as I'm going to do the best I can with whatever job I have. I'll take advantage of the income. I'll take advantage of what other benefits there are from this job, but I'm also going to keep my eyes open and not be afraid to make moves, because you're probably going to have to make certain moves over the years. The biggest thing would be to get whatever you can out of that job. Get used to being there. The first part is getting used to working all day and not being bored out of your mind, and being able to do it day after day, day after day, day after day. That's huge. And then trying to get some experience in that, so you've got some good some good resume words because of whatever you've done in your 20s, and have some stories built up about the good things you did, the extra mile you went, the types of work you've done, so you can add to your resume and your stories for your interviews, because you know you're going to be doing more. So yeah, and then the other thing about your 20s, I wouldn't worry so much about, is this what I'm, the biggest life decisions. I would just work, make money, save a slice of money. Don't worry about saving a tons of money. That saving lots of money, that comes later when you make more money. Just enjoy the money you have, and yeah, save a little bit if you can, but don't worry so much about saving. Worry more about enjoying the money you have and living decently on your own without any help from your parents. And then you might not even think about making, let's say, your contribution to the world till later. That rarely happens to 20-something-year-old people. You just haven't lived long enough or done enough to offer that much to the world. Just being a good person is very good. Being happy, having a certain measure of freedom, keeping your options open. That's a huge for your 20s. That's just absolutely huge. And that kind of brings me to my final thing to watch out for in your 20s, is to try to avoid making any more big mistakes. Some of the big mistakes that 20-somethings will have is you might have a big student loan that's really going to be hard to pay off because you've made a big mistake in one, getting a big student loan, and two, getting some sort of a major in college that isn't guaranteed to make a lot of money enough to pay the student loan. Well, yeah, that is a big mistake, and you will be able to overcome that mistake by just making the payments as best you can over time, and getting back to that contribution in your 20s. You're probably not going to be able to buy a house and start a family in your 20s. It's probably just better to be a little more patient with those types of big expenses. It'll make life a lot easier if you don't even think about it in your 20s, if you don't even think about having a baby, if you don't even think about buying a house. You may or may not be having a significant other. You may or may not be thinking about getting married. But if you don't have a baby, don't have a house, it'll be easier to control your expenses until you make more money. When you make more money, having a baby buying a house is much, much, much easier, because those two things are based on the big incomes will help you to overcome that, and you don't normally get the big incomes until you've been working a significant amount of time. So again, with the mistakes, yeah, you might have that student loan mistake. You might have even had a baby already, and you're seeing how difficult life is trying to take care of a baby in your 20s when you're really not really that much out of the babyhood yourself. I guess if you've had the baby in your 20s, well, you've kind of made your bed, you've got a big commitment there. But this is probably more for the people who haven't had a baby yet. I would caution you to wait. I know I've talked about this before, but what the easiest way to have a baby is to make a lot of money, so you can pay for all the various things that cost a lot of money, and to make your life real smooth and easy, even if you have this enormous responsibility to take care of. Lots of money, your large income coming in every month, plus a large savings account buffer to take care of things that may pop up. And that would bring to the main part about the 20s, is that's a good time in your life to try to have as many adventures as you can have when you have a lot of energy to have those adventures. You may or may not have a lot of money to pay for adventures. You may not have a lot of free time for those adventures. Like, for example, you probably won't have tons of vacation time, but you'll probably have some vacation time, and in that vacation time would be the time to have some adventures. And you should be stacking up adventures in your 20s as rapidly as you can, when you have the energy to do as much as you can. Because let me tell you, when you start having the babies, the adventures you're gonna have are gonna be limited. And then when you get to be old in your 50s, your ability to have adventures and the energy and the ability, the capacity to have those adventures is going to get more and more and more limited. So you want to do more when you're young, and have that memory bank to reflect on. I'm in my 50s, and I still reflect on the adventures I had in my 20s, as that was a great time. My only regret is I didn't have more. I didn't have more of them, because I'd want to reflect on even more. And all I'm trying to do in my 50s is get my life back to some of the things I could do in my 20s. And this is a huge realization, that your 20s can be a great time in your life if you just realize that they are, and you take advantage of your energy level. You take advantage of that you can make more rapid improvements in your life in your 20s than probably any other time in your life. You can probably get in shape faster in your 20s than any other time in your life. You can probably make a dramatic change to your body more than any other time in your life. You can probably add more money to your bank account than any other time in your life. You can probably have more fun than at any other time in your life. So with that will be the end of my tips. Again, I think I've given you a lot to think about. I talk about this kind of stuff all the time with my 20-something-year-old kids, and I'm constantly trying to guide them and help them and understand the gift that you have by being in your 20s. And I wish you well, and I wish I was in my 20s again to do all this kind of stuff, but I'm hoping that you will take advantage of this. all for now.